Now we are live. So welcome everybody to the second virtual music industry chat that we have done, a virtual music industry hang. My name is Mackenzie Mackinich. Um, I run National Seat Filling. It's a small business that I own where I do music industry consulting, and I've been doing that for about a year and a half, doing the consulting. Currently the booking agent for Stephanie Ann Johnson. I've worked with other artists in the past, Aaron Jones, Funky to Death. I've done lots of work as a talent buyer for a music venue. I have been a music industry writer. I used to write for The Stranger, the Seattle Weekly. Quite a bit of experience in a lot of different facets in the music industry for roughly 17 or 18 years now. And so yeah, it's just a little bit about me to start. I'm not going to talk a lot about me because I think pretty much everybody on here knows me, except for Seth. It's going to be cool to get to know Seth because he's somebody who I just met a couple weeks ago through an introduction. So what we've done today is I've gathered three friends to hop in and be guest panelists, just to kind of speak a little bit about who they are and kind of share, how the whole COVID thing is affecting them and how they are getting through this, any tips they might have for folks. I'll probably follow up and kind of ask each of my panelists a question, and then we're just going to open it up to other guests that are on here who have more questions, or if they have, some tips that they would like to share. And I just asked it if you're not speaking, just to be on mute, and we will go. Thank you everybody for being here. Let's start with ladies first. So, Alaia, would you like to start?
Yeah.
Maybe about five minutes, who you are and kind of what's going on and how you're dealing with all this.
Yeah. I'm Alaia D'Alessandro. I play in a band called Tres Leches. I do my solo stuff too. Just go by Alaia. I do looping, and then sometimes I have a band back me up. Not much lately because of the pandemic. And I work at KEXP. I do video there. I'm a producer. And I work with Eva Walker on a show called Video Bebop, and which is basically we show a bunch of local music videos from the Northwest, and it's hosted by the Black Tones, Eva Walker and Cedric, and I'm a producer for that as well.
Yeah. Can you share, maybe a minute or two of how is this whole thing affecting you? What are some things that have, maybe come about that you didn't expect? What are some ways that how are you coping with it? What are some things you've never done before as an artist or even with the video producing things? And, how are you getting through this? How are you?
I'm okay, honestly. I don't think anybody's really okay in it. There's obviously a lot of emotional stuff that comes along with it, and each day is different. However, I'm really fortunate in that I work from home a lot too, from doing video editing, and I really enjoy working from home because it gives me this freedom to be able to. For me, it's a healthier lifestyle because I get to like I'm better at taking breaks and come back to work more focused. I get to make myself a healthy homemade cooked meal, and I'm less likely to just go and get something frozen or quick, so I save money that way too, and I nourish myself better. I'm more likely to exercise because I don't run out of time between transiting an hour to and from work and being at an office all day. And I get more time with seeing my family, which is really great. So those are things I've been really enjoying and thriving with. So I got more time to practice guitar, more time to practice my vocals. As a band, we've been able to set up an online store where we've been selling our vinyl of Amorpho. We were gonna have that's been a challenge in another way because we were gonna have our vinyl release show, and it was looking to be really good. It probably would have sold out, but can't have it right now, and we're not sure when we're going to have it, and it's hard to plan. We can say like, oh, let's try and postpone it till late June, but nobody really knows how long this is going to go. And when people do eventually go out, like, or are able to go out, are they going to have money to go and support local music? Are they going to feel safe doing so? Do they feel like they really need to wait even longer? And what venues are going to be open? Because a lot of them are not going to be around after this. Unfortunately, I've heard that there's already some venues that are not going to come back from this. So that's been hard. We've been able to, like I said, sell our vinyl online, which has been really nice. We really appreciate our supporters going on our Bandcamp and buying merch. We have been doing some live concerts from our home, and that's been great. We've made some great connections with those live concerts that we didn't have before, and we even got like a little tiny blip of a mention from one of them in like Rolling Stones, which we've never seen our name at all there, so that's been great. And I've been working from home for KEXP, and we've had to get really creative with video and learn new software for streaming from home, and working with artists to try and get them to be able to enable them and empower them to have the knowledge to set up their own recording studios at home. So it's been, everything's just changed in terms of work and doing band stuff. But home life I've been really liking.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure, and it's probably weird for you as well, and not something you're used to. Same here. I'm trying to get used to being at home a lot, way more than I ever was for sure, but which has been interesting to say the least. Erica, how about a little bit of just an intro of who you are and kind of how this is affecting you? Obviously, I know how this is affecting you in certain professional ways and stuff you can talk about, but how's this affecting you professionally and personally, and what are some kind of insights or things that ways you're working through it and things you didn't see before that have kind of popped up and maybe helping you get through this?
Hi, thanks, Mackenzie, and hi, everybody. I do hope that you're all doing well. I know Mackenzie because we booked Aaron a couple of times at 2 festivals, and then we were slated to have Stephanie at Winthrop this summer. We've stayed in touch over the years, and I've watched a lot of what you've done, and you're refreshing. So I've been around a long time. I can tell I'm the older person here. I want to first say that I'm a mom of a 24-year-old daughter who's a nurse in Denver on the COVID floor, a children's hospital, and they actually have COVID patients. And I from the beginning of this, for me personally, I think that's what has been the hardest, is to not be able to see her. I was pretty attuned about this was going on. I'm with the Washington Festivals and Events Association, so I work with the gamut of industry professionals that put on events, whether they're festivals or street fairs or your concert series or any of that. And I wrote a note back on January 30th to our association executive director, and I said, I think we should be talking about this in our upcoming conference, because we had a conference coming up for industry professionals. And then we just started, things started escalating, and then we're at where we're at now. But by the time that the orders were being put in place, and I had already elevated. I was fearful, because I didn't understand the enormity of what was about to happen, but I could tell something was major, especially when we started talking about canceling Waterfront Blues Festival way before anybody else did. It actually had a different set of circumstances than when we just canceled. We made the announcement about Winthrop this week, but it's all because of COVID. Waterfront Blues Festival, it was in its 33rd year this year. It's the largest blues festival west of Chicago, and west of the Mississippi, they say. We have about 80,000 people over 4 days. It's not just blues music. It's an amazing festival. If you've been to it, then you know. If not, please come when we are able to have another festival. Winthrop, also in its 33rd year, is a small, I would call a boutique festival, smaller, 3,000 people, like a boutique festival, started by a bunch of hippies back in 1988 up in Winthrop, Washington. And in 2005, I got involved with it when it became a nonprofit. And we were able to successfully move the festival into a good thing. It's a going concern. We were able to give back to the community. We've won awards, and it's really a special festival. So, and 6 weeks ago, I told the board that I think that we're going to have to think about canceling, and we need to do that. And I'm the only one over here. They're all over in Winthrop, and they listened to me, but I think it was like they didn't have an understanding. I mean, over in Eastern Washington is a little bit different than what we're experiencing here in King County or in New York City, where, by the way, my uncle's a doctor in the downtown New York City, had COVID. I've had 3 family members that have had COVID and have survived. One was very, very ill, but my aunt is doing okay now. So COVID has affected all of us across the globe. And what I'm doing, I also work in the nonprofit world here with Washington Women's Foundation and a few other things that I don't need to go into, but it's who I am. And so I'm constantly looking for ways to give back or be of service or be a resource, be a conduit, especially for musicians as well. My family's musicians, and the people that own the venues and the people that work in the venues, all of our production people. I mean, and I'm doing lots of things, and I can address that later, but I don't know if that helps or not to tell you who I am.
Sure.
I am constantly, like Mackenzie said, things are changing. It's a never changing environment. And so I'm constantly trying to stay abreast of what's going on and work with creatives so that we can come out of this, because we are all in this together, all of us. And lastly, I sent a download of some resources. It's across the board, but there's some of it's national, some of it's local. And I'm here for everybody and anybody. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Erica. Yeah, folks, feel free to download that. It's in the chat that she posted there. And yeah, and like I said, last time when we did one of these, I posted all kinds of resources. If you really dig deep into my National Seed Filling Group page, I've posted lots and lots and lots of, resource pages. So as you guys as independent musicians, as most of you are, apply for everything. The worst they can tell you is no. So apply. Treat that like your day job. Just spend your time working on those. So next is Seth, who, like I said, is somebody who I've never met personally. Oh, and he's coughing. So yeah, keep that cough over there, bud. I'm glad we're not meeting in person.
I was clearing my throat.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of same thing. Just a little intro of who you are, how this is affecting you, maybe things that have popped up that you hadn't thought of, ways to get through this, and yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Seth McDonald. I'm a musician, manager, booking agent, consultant. I started in 2011 going to audio engineering school, audio production school, and I lucked up and I got an internship with Macklemore and Ryan Lewis before they blew up, and I was around for that journey, both pre-blowing up and after blowing up, and did that for about oh, hey, Wands. I know.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Speaking of Macklemore and Ryan Lewis.
Yeah. I was just
a better intro, right?
Yeah.
Good to see you, Seth. Where you been, man?
Yeah, I've just been just head down working. Yeah, so Michael, I was just beginning to talk about my journey so far in music. So around 2013, I started working at Purple Door Studios, which was owned by Grammy award-winning producer Jake One, and also Justin Hare from The Physics. And then as time went on from like 2013 to 2017, while I was working there, I started playing in a band called All Star Opera. And yeah, I'm just trying to think about everything I've done in like a linear form here. In 2016 to 2017, I was a Pro Tools teacher at Robert Lang Music Academy. And then in 2017, after a couple years of figuring out what we were doing with All Star Opera and like the branding and everything, things started rolling a lot smoother. It was around that time I started managing and consulting. And since 2018, I've consulted over 100 clients. And right now I currently manage Chris King and the Gutterballs, as well as All Star Opera. And I book for Sol, Biddadat, Bad Saint, Remember Face, All Star Opera, Chris King and the Gutterballs, and Real Dawn Music. I also play keys in Real Dawn Music. And next month, I'm super excited to launch my consulting business, Inquire Within Consulting. And I'm doing that with my friend Kirk Huffman, who plays in Real Dawn Music and used to play in KK and his Weathered Underground and other cool bands. And that's a little bit of me, of where I'm at so far. And then as far as this current climate, it's really been across the board. In the last 6 months, I actually wasn't consulting. I was working for a record label in New York City doing booking. I got laid off March 15th because there's nothing to book. But I was doing that 20 hours a week, and the other 20 hours a week was primarily just booking for other artists, Sol, Biddadat. I've had multiple tours that have gone under. I have, yeah, I mean, as you know, like there's no shows, so it's all rerouting right now. And for some, that's been really cool to see what that looks like. For example, Chris King and the Gutterballs is definitely like Americana rock singer-songwriter. So he's been able to do pretty much every single live stream show that gets thrown at him. And that's been really cool and a huge way for him to grow and get more exposure. Whereas my band is a 6-piece hip hop soul band, and there's no like one singular identity of the band. It's all 6 of us. And so that has been really tricky on how we push forward. And so it's really shifted towards us locking in the studio, because we can't really do too many of these live shows unless it's something at like a venue, like a Nectar Lounge. They're doing a series where it's like, okay, well, that's feasible. We can be socially distant. Whereas Chris literally last week, Chris King, my client, he did a live stream every single day. And so it's been interesting to see that. And then for folks like Sol, who had like a whole US tour in the works, it's like, we're hearing from folks, basically take all the dates you had, even if they're in the fall, and move them one year over to the day. That's what a lot of the word is right now. And then I think the last part of what you wanted me to talk about, Mackenzie, initially is some like creative things that are coming from this. Maybe I'm butchering that a little bit, but
sure. It's
one
pretty
thing that
informal, you know, whatever everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah. So one thing that I was working on this spring is called the Seattle World Tour. It's a 5-night festival series. Tres Leches played last year. That was that was a really good night. And last year, it was year 2 of the Seattle World Tour. It's a 5-night series, 5 different neighborhood venues thrown by my band All Star Opera, as well as Northwest Publication, Respect My Region. And last year we raised $10,000 for Mary's Place here in Seattle. This year we were going to do it May 5th to May 9th. We had a really rocking lineup.
Can I also just say that that's a great festival, because not only do you raise a lot of money for a great cause, but you're able to also pay the musicians as well. And you guys like really treated us well, and like all the goodies, like we totally felt like rock stars, and it was incredible to be able to feel like that while we got to contribute to something that was helping other people too.
I appreciate that. That really means a lot, and that's the goal. And so this year, May 5th to May 9th, we were about to announce March 9th. I'd come back from a week in Mexico City thinking like, okay, you know, I'm seeing all these rumors about COVID in Seattle, but in Mexico City, it was actually fine. And then I get back to Seattle and we're just like just like the whole process of going through the airport, even, it wasn't that bad, but by the next day, it was clear that, oh, this is pretty serious here in Seattle. So we didn't announce on March 9th, and we kind of just rode out the wave. But something cool that's come from it is, because we can't do the Seattle World Tour this year, we've really shifted our focus to creative ways to promote local music while still raising money for Mary's Place this spring. And additionally, it's really pushed us to actualize something we've been talking about for the last year. And so last month we became a nonprofit organization, the Seattle World Tour Foundation. And so our goal is to not only do the event every year, but also regularly throughout the year, find creative ways through promoting local music, whether it's like merch sales or a mixtape or whatever, finding creative ways to promote local music while giving back to not only Mary's Place, but multiple organizations here in Seattle who are supporting those experiencing homelessness. So that's been a cool thing, because it's kind of just pushed us to things that were on the back burner. We've talked about like, oh, we want to be a nonprofit, but when you're playing shows and going to practice and writing songs, like that gets pushed back sometimes. And now it's been like, this is at the forefront of what we're doing, and we're finding ways to, load management where everyone takes on a little bit, so it's not one person. And I guess last thing, I'm sure some of you are seeing this too. Prior to COVID, I always felt live streaming was a little bit of a niche thing, as far as like, some people are into it, some people just keep scrolling. But now it seems like live streaming, even post-COVID, is going to be here to stay. And really excited about what that's going to breed just in the next couple of years, because I think we're just seeing like the tip of the surface right now as far as what can be done with it.
Thanks, Seth.
Yeah.
I think instead of asking everybody individual questions, I just have about maybe 4 topics that I'll talk about, and then any of the panelists can hop in, or anybody, it doesn't matter. Michael, Noel, it's cool. Thank you all, the 3 of you, for sharing, by the way, the things that you did. And to kind of segue into what you were talking about, Seth, with the streaming and the venues, couple different thoughts about that. First off, I think I agree, and I think it's a really cool opportunity for, hopefully the technology is going to get better to where people actually can live stream in real time together with solid both video and audio. There's been a lot of hiccups about that. I'm seeing a lot of my friends seem to love Jam Kazam. Like Joe Doria posted about that nearly every day, how he's on there. But that's just for just playing. I don't believe the video works well with that. So when they're trying to do it. So, but I think eventually you'll probably see something like that pop into Facebook. They're going to improve it, and probably Instagram, to where you can have 4, 5, 6 different screens where they don't have the latency issues, and it's all in there. With that said, I kind of have a question for the group, though, is I have talked to some friends of mine who are huge, and I think I posted about this, but huge live music fans, folks that go to over 100 shows a year, blah, 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 blah. And a very consistent response I'm getting back is that people are already getting bored with live streams, especially when it's just one solo artist by themselves, maybe with an acoustic guitar. And, we're only a month into this, and it's a little bit alarming in certain aspects, because this might have to go on for quite a long time, and it might be the only way that some of those folks can get money. So kind of a question is like, how can folks keep this interesting enough to keep people's attention? And then a second thing that I kind of wanted to add about that is you probably noticed that Spotify, well, let's start with that because the other one's a little bit different, although it's still in the same line. So if anybody wants to speak to that.
Well, I'll start. I will say that I've probably been on the side of like, I'm getting a little bored with some of these, but it was actually your client, Mackenzie, who I watched yesterday, like the Evening Magazine video.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps watching that, and that kind of like just like reinvigorated my desire to keep seeking these out. I think if you're going to be a singular artist in front of these videos, you don't have to be Stephanie necessarily, but it just blew me away how amazing Stephanie was, just so raw with the guitar and the vocal mic. But more so, I think if you're a singular entity, you have, and you're attempting to do these live streams, just putting some love and attention into the space around you. And it doesn't have to be all crazy. It doesn't, but just something that makes each performance a little different. I know something we worked on last week when Chris was doing live streams each day was like, if we could get you behind a different backdrop each day, because some of these are just pre-recorded, they go up on a YouTube or whatever, making each piece something that could live on its own. And then if, one day things really take off, like fans could look back and be like, well, that performance or that performance. It's like I've once played with a bass player who would always be like, oh, this is like Donny Hathaway 1972 live in Philadelphia, like little relics like that you remember. That's my initial thought with these live streams, is make them special.
Agreed.
I think maybe keeping them short too. I know some people. Yeah, okay. Some of you agree with me. I'm glad, because we've got a lot of requests for these live streams that go up to like an hour and a half or something, and we're like, how about like 45 minutes? When we say 45, how about 20? And because one, I think that you'll keep people wanting more, and two, I think that that way you can rotate through your songs. And then if you have only if you have an 8-song set list, and you're like, well, that's only 2, I can only rotate through that twice anyways, you still if you change your location, then that's 4 different sessions you can do. And then if you maybe change the arrangement, it can be really fun to open up whatever DAW you're working with, Pro Tools or Ableton or a free one. There's lots of free options online, and play around with trying to rearrange your songs and getting creative. And it can be, I'm gonna definitely say it can totally be hard to find that creative spot, and that's totally okay in this time. If you're feeling like you're in a slump, that's totally natural. And I would just say focus on what you're feeling at that point, and process those emotions. Because I think when I do that, when I let myself feel rather than trying to push through it, once I've processed those emotions, I come out with all this creative fuel, and that's what I can use towards rearranging something. So getting creative, and sometimes getting creative does mean taking care of yourself first.
I would definitely agree about the shortening of the times that artists are on streaming. Just because it's a lot of sitting for people who are viewing, or I love what WWOZ is doing with streaming Jazz Fest right now, because it's spectacular, and they put out cubes, but you can listen to it, so you don't have to actually visually. That's another way of doing it. You can actually listen to it wherever you're going. You can listen to your car, you can listen to it wherever you're on your device. You don't have to sit and watch it. So that's another way of doing some streaming. For I have 2 festivals, and for Winthrop, I'm working on a virtual festival, but I won't do it live. I will have the artists record 30-minute segments, and then find the resource and the creative to stitch it together, and maybe have live throughout the day. It would hit the weekend of the festival. I put a link on there from Can't Stop the Blues. Those guys are doing a phenomenal job of live streaming events, promoting it, running it through. And a guy named Kid Anderson, he owns Greaseland Studios. He's a guitarist and cool dude, originally from Norway, down in California. And they do a lot of, mainly in the blues world. He's with Rick Estrin and the Nightcats. But they did a show the other night where he did some pre-records, but then they also did live, and it worked really well. So if you can find it in there, it's pretty cool. And he's kind of a dork, so he did comedic stuff with his wife, but it was very, very well done. That's the other thing for Waterfront. the team was saying, well, everybody's doing this right now. Do we want to live stream? Can we just run old video? And and we're talking, yeah, we'll probably run old video, and we're working on something for the 4th of July, because that event always happened over the 4th of July. And again, live streaming is really cool. I mean, you can watch some pretty intimate moments, like you were saying, Alaia. Ivan Neville does a live stream a few days a week with just he and his piano, but then he talks, and you get things that you would never get on a big festival stage. And what it does is it brings us all together in the same place. And I think that I've noticed that I'm moved by music. I miss you guys. I mean, I'm not a musician. I grew up in the music world, and my family's all musicians. For me, it's, about creating experiences for people, musical experiences, and being a conduit for bands to come and perform. And so to not have that right now, and to have to deal with this whole new mindset, it's been really hard. But I think that if we didn't have, can you imagine if this was 10 years ago? We wouldn't have the technology like we do now. And Facebook, Zuckerberg was on yesterday, and they're doing something with their live streaming and their messaging. They're upping the game. I think they want to, take over Zoom or rise above it. So there might be some new capabilities, but anyways, that's what I got for that.
A few thoughts I have on that. Yeah, on top, and Stephanie's trying to figure out the balance on for doing those. So every Monday she's been doing an hour-long thing, like at 7 o'clock every Monday night, and we've kind of talked back and forth, like, is that too much? Will enough people tune in for those? And I think she's just trying to figure out the balance of it. So far, it's working great. I think right now it's a little bit of that balance of you never really know who's going to tune in, so just do it every week anyway. And maybe some people, if everybody knows it's there every week, it's kind of like Funky to Death every Friday night at the Sea Monster. It's like, yeah, you're not going to go every week, but you just know it's there. And so, like, if you miss it one week, you can pop in. So that's working well for her. Another suggestion that I had also made on one of my pages over the past week was kind of in regards to this of if people are getting a little bored with some of the live streams. And let's face it, some of them aren't that great either. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not just because like the quality of the person, but sometimes it's the quality of the audio. But what about posting old videos? Like, nobody has time to catch all the content that every artist has ever put out. It's like, if you've got a badass video that you did even 4 years ago where the crowd was into it, I want to see that. Like, post that on your pages and then put links to tip your Venmo or your PayPal. Like, I'll get down on that. But like, me personally, like, I need some more variety too than just one solo artist. Like, show me the cool stuff that I missed, back in whenever. Like, I'd love to see it, because again, nobody has, you can't see it all the time, but now there's time.
I also think like if you're a musician that's gonna do a live stream and you're doing it every week, somebody who's I think been doing it really well is Shayna Shepherd on Instagram.
Yeah.
Live. I think she calls it like the Lonely Heart Girl or something.
Lonely Sessions, yeah.
Thank you. And what she does is she like mixes it up. So she's not only tapping into herself as a musician, but as like an entertainer and an artist in general, because and she involves people too. That's a huge difference, I think, is that engagement component. Is she usually like has some games set up, like she did a truth or dare one time, and she like calls people on. It's like, oh, let's make up this dance together, or she'll do like a cover and it'll be like karaoke, and she'll pull people on the live and they'll sing a chorus, and then she'll pull somebody else on and they'll sing a chorus, and then she'll do like after all that, then she'll do maybe a song or two. And that's a great way to vary it each week, because it's different each week and you're engaging people. And I think a lot of people miss engagement right now and miss being with each other, and that's a great way to be with your audience members when you can't physically be with them.
treat it like a TV show, that you come up with different episodes every week. Once a week, it's like this, and you can have guest artists and the whole nine. I think Shayna really has the right idea.
She's basically hanging out with people, which is the best thing. I have 3 quick things on the live streaming. One, it's inevitable that as far as concerts go, this probably trickles into the fall at the very least. The Live Nation CEO was quoted as saying last week, 6 to 18 months. I'm sure some of you have seen as far as fall 2021 or maybe even 2022. That being said, my thought is, okay, well, this is here to stay. Even if the socially distant regulations get lifted, concerts are still going to be one of the last things to come back into play. So it's to say you have time to plan something for next month. You have time to plan something for June. Sometimes I think I've been a little turned off when it's like, hey, I'm going live in 3 hours, and I didn't get any like forewarning, and everything about it felt a little rushed. So it's to say, I think secondly, just treating this like an actual concert if you're going to do it yourself. Obviously, if you're going on someone else's platform, go do that, and that hopefully that's a great opportunity. But if you're looking to host your own thing, I think there is some power in like creating a Facebook event, creating a show poster, promo videos, even if they're just shot on your phone. Like, lo-fi is very endearing right now in these times. And lastly,
Michael, hold on one second. Michael, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if Seth has heard anything about the models turning to pay-per-view like they did for wrestling and boxing and shit.
I think if you're an artist of stature, that can be a great way. As an indie artist, I think it's hard to ask people to just like do a paywall to get through. But that being said, I do think there's a lot of value for that long term. There's also like Patreon programs like that, where that like alternatively it kind of does that in a different way. But I do think it's getting to that long term, and especially with these bigger artists, like there's talk about like a Puff Daddy versus Dr. Dre beat battle, but they're not going to do that for free. The last thing though I wanted to talk about with the live stream is, Alaia, what's the global series you're doing? Did you just do it, or is it coming
The
up?
Global Music Fest.
Yeah.
Ours was broadcasted. I think it's still going on through the weekend. It was out of Brazil. It was really it was a really cool collaboration with El Sonido from KEXP, Brain Music Productions, and Minuto Indie.
Yeah.
And it was out of Brazil, but they have artists from all over the world participating. And what it was they asked us to record in our own space, and I think most people did it from their houses, and so they kind of like did like a live introduction, and then they also asked us questions. They did rapid fire questions, and we sent them videos of us performing and answering the questions, and then they cut it up into like they show a song, and then they pull in an overlay that asks the question, and then they show us answering the question, and that was great too, because they made it kind of like the way they put it together was very it kept it interesting, and it kept it short, and they kind of chose the sweet points rather than like the whole. I'm glad they didn't use the whole interview where we were like, this is a really deep question, let me think about it, and they just chopped that part up, and it's cool that it's with artists from all over the world.
Yeah, so I want to touch on that because the first week that shows and venues were canceled, I was stubborn, and I was like, you know what, everyone's going to be doing live stream. I don't want to do it. But then as time went on, I just kept thinking like, okay, something has to come from this. And I'd been thinking about for the last month, and had just started working on it 2 weeks ago, an international live streaming fest, similar to the what Alaia did this past week. But my plan was to do like a different artist in each time zone, and basically call it Around the World in a Day. But the larger thought, and I was so hyped when I saw that Tres Leches was a part of the series, is the thought that I've been having is, now more than ever, we have a chance to connect with communities across the world, even if it's just for 20 minutes, and you don't have to buy a plane ticket to get all the way there. And if you can find a way to team up with bands in Mexico City or in Paris or wherever, and have there be mutual cross benefit. So like your Seattle network is tuning in to that Paris band, and vice versa. That Paris band's network is tuning into the Seattle band. I feel like artists right now have a chance more than ever to tap into the global community and just get more exposure out there. And so I was really excited about the global music fest that Tres Leches was doing, because I think that's kind of like the future of what we're looking at for live streaming, is these like worldwide concerts.
And just to give them a shout out, they are going on today and tomorrow, and you can find it at, if you search Minuto Indie on YouTube, you'll find it.
Thanks. Couple of things I wanted to share that we're doing in Stephanie's project that I feel like are working well. One of them is like a follow-up of what we talked about the last time we did one of these chats, is that I've gone back and started hitting up venues that we had shows scheduled at that canceled, and festivals. Erica knows because I bugged her about this as well. But I just went to them and said, hey, how would you feel about doing, a collaboration stream together and do it through the venues? And some of them could also be, and you're seeing a lot of this, like the High Dive is hosting some, Nectar is hosting some. But we've got one that's going to be coming up soon with Kirkland Performance Center. So it's going to be a dual fundraiser, because they usually do a fundraiser in the spring anyway. So we're going to do one with them where we split the proceeds that come in, which this could potentially make Stephanie a lot of money on that. So my point of that is just get creative, and what are some venues, what are some festivals, different things that you've potentially we're going to work with, and try to get in touch with them, see if they'd like to collaborate with you. And then another one that we're going to do as well is her private email list. We're just going to do a private Zoom performance just with the folks only on her email list, so it's exclusive, and just a Zoom performance through there. And again, it'll just be for tips, Venmo donation, PayPal donation. So just get creative like that. Just a couple things that we're doing that we're excited about, at least, because that's all I can do right now. I can't, like Seth said, I can't book any shows. Like the only thing I'm doing for Stephanie right now is just trying to book virtual things right now that actually get her money. That's all I can do. So
I have a quick question. Oh, sorry, you go, Erica.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's important for producers and promoters to find revenue for the artists rather than expect artists to just play for free. And that's coming from somebody that ours is a nonprofit. But I want to tell you what I did with Winthrop. We're a 501c3, so we are not holding people's ticket or having them hold their tickets till next year. We offered them two options in our release this week. They could either get the refund of their face value of their ticket. We use a ticket seller, Ticket Tomato. It's out of Portland. Wonderful people. Or they could donate their ticket or a portion of that back to us. And I specified what it would go to, which is to the artists that we're going to perform this year, and also to the Cove Food Bank, which is the Methow Valley Food Bank. Because we do that anyways. If we have profitability at the end of our festival, we give back into the community, even though we're a nonprofit, but we exist to be able to do that, support arts and culture and beyond. I'm stunned at the generosity of our fans, our Winthrop fans, and that what we're going to be able to do. It's obviously not going to be our talent budget that we had, which is a lot different than what but we're still going to be able to give something to the artists, and we're going to ask them to do that 30 minute performance. I mean, I wasn't going to ask them to do it for free unless they wanted to, and I didn't have any funds for that, but we've been able to leverage some funds. So that's one of the ways I'm doing a lot of different things, but that's one of them that, the humanity of people is out there during this. And as a promoter and a producer, it's important for me to help artists. We had JJ Gray as one of our headliners this year. JJ Gray and Mofro, I don't know if you know them, but out of Florida. And, his agent said, JJ's fine, but all of his touring musicians and all of his road crew, they're suffering. one of the agencies that I've worked with for many, many years, and one of the agents for many years, they laid off 200 of their agents a month ago. Just matter of fact, they didn't even they enforced a force majeure. That hasn't anything to do with streaming, but meaning that those guys didn't get anything, no unemployment, nothing. They just were let go.
Wow.
So it's affecting, it's a global effect on everybody in the industry. And so looking for creative ways to be able to support musicians and production, and also connecting, like what Seth said about connecting. I think this is an important way of connecting with people. Our production crew for Waterfront Blues Festival is huge. So they asked, could we somehow get together? So I started a weekly happy hour for the production, and they thrive in it. They show up every week and come with stories. And I think that, besides just the performance, it's also talking about how, like Mackenzie asking everybody, how are you doing? I think that's an important way. I know I got off subject, but go ahead, Seth. Sorry.
Oh, no, I think that's all really great. My question is to everyone here. So I have one band who is just petrified to do anything on camera where they're together because they're afraid of the stigma and like the perception of their fans of like, not being safe. And on the other side of the spectrum, I have another band who's like, let's do as many as we can. And, they're 5 or 6 feet apart, but, and even with some of these Nectar and High Dive ones I've watched in other ones, it's like sometimes it's just physically impossible to like get together and all be 6 feet apart. They're still spaced out. But I'm curious, what are all your thoughts as you watch these? Are you thinking about, is this safe as you watch it? Is there like, because I have one band who just won't even touch it, and they've gotten some really incredible offers, and they're just turning them all down, and because they don't want to deal with the stigma.
Yeah. So about that, I have kind of personal opinions. I don't really like it that artists are getting together, if I'm being honest. Especially just not right now. If they can stay a reasonable amount of distance away, and maybe not even in a small closed room, okay. But that's just my own personal taste. I'm a little uneasy with it. I will say that I have seen folks post online. Like, there's one friend of mine who is another big music fan, buys tons of merch and music from artists. And he literally posted one day and said, I will no longer support any artists who are getting together at this time. And he's just like, sorry, like, I'm not going to buy your stuff. I'm not going to stream, like, whatever. So that's real. I mean, there's definitely people that feel that way. They're probably way more headfast about it than I am. I've definitely heard it though, for sure.
I think it depends where you're located. Like, so for an artist like myself that's in New York City, or someone in Seattle or LA, I do think that the stigma is real, and I agree with Mackenzie 100%. But then there are bands and artists that live in more rural places where it's not as much of a threat and they wouldn't be risking anyone's life by getting together. And then there are also bands that live together. So I think making some room for the stigma to go away for circumstances like that, situations like that, and let that be known. But I do think if that's not your situation, I don't think it's a wise idea. I wouldn't do it being in New York right now.
I think it's real.
I respect both sides of it. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Alaia. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's I think it's a case by case situation, and the reason why it's hard is because everything changes daily.
Right.
Too. The more information that we get, and then as you said, Noel, like some artists live together. Ulysses and we live together, but we did for one of the live streams, we got together with our third member, who we were also we were practicing with, up until we had to cancel our tour. So probably up until when the right when the stay-at-home order was in effect. So we were around each other a lot when this first started. So I think that's one reason. That's one way I kind of rationalize it was, we're around each other anyways. And Ulysses and I are always around each other because we're a couple and we live together. We're a three-piece, so it's really easy for us. There's lots of space on the stage. I think it depends on how big the stage is and how big the venue is. Like, I'm thinking right now specifically of Nectar, because we got asked to do that as well, and we've been going back and forth and talking with a lot of other musicians about it too. And we asked how many people would be there, and there's 2 other people there, and Nectar's a fairly spacious venue. So we feel like we can stay 15 feet away from each other maybe. And I think there's just a lot to weigh. It's hard because that's a benefit, that's a benefit for Nectar. And that was kind of like it kind of goes towards like the whole decision of when this first started. We were like, do we tour or do we cancel the tour? Because there's these venues that are asking us to come and play because they want to stay open as long as they can, because they want to earn this revenue and not go under. And we want to support venues in any way we can, and we want to make sure that they're there after this. But ultimately, we had to decide not to go on tour because I think getting people together in a space, and it was like that was a day-by-day decision, because it was pretty much the like 9 hours before we were supposed to leave, we made that decision. We called our third and we're like, we can't, this is getting too big. There's more and more bands, and we think that those bands are happening because we really cannot gather people in a space together. So we think about that every time we say yes or no to something. We prefer to do stuff at home, and we kind of vet what's being done with the bands, and we run it by our team, with the venues, and we run it by our team, our managers, and try and make the best decision. And if we find something where we think it's not going to be healthy or safe for us, then we shut it down immediately. But it's just hard. It's really hard to make that decision. We might be making some wrong ones, we probably are making, some wrong ones, because nobody knows what the heck is going on right now. And it's kind of impossible to, just got to do your best and stay as informed as possible. Try and make the best decision.
For me, when I say that it's something I don't like my brain kind of goes back to I hold a Democrat position locally. So where I look at it is like, there's an order right now that nobody's supposed to be going out unless you have essential work. You're not supposed to be gathering. So I'm kind of along the lines of like just trying to adhere to that, and that people should. Because like on one sense, if I'm getting mad that people are gathering down at Olympia and protesting in mass forms and they've got their guns and they're 2 feet away from each other, but then like I'm letting it slide on the other side, of musicians want to get together, it's a little hypocritical. With all that said, though, I'm trying to also just not be judgmental about it, because there's so many people are so, what's the word I'm looking for? On social media, they just blow up about it. Like no matter what you do, if you leave your house, there's going to be people that are really happy with that, or people that are really angry with that. Like I went for a walk last week with a friend of mine, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. I was like, you realize we can't like post about this, that we're out. He's like, really? He's like, oh no. And even though we never got within 6 feet of each other, I was like, if people knew we just went and met at a park and went for a walk, I was like, people they'll lose their friggin' minds. And I was like, let's just not it's not really anybody's, we'll just kind of stay quiet.
Where's the teachable moment here? Because there are guidelines that have worked so far to get us from where we were to where we are. And if you're going to be able to go, what you just said, Mackenzie, doesn't make sense to me, because, people not everyone gets their groceries delivered. Not everyone gets their prescriptions delivered. So what they do is they take the precautions that they take and they go out in public. And I don't understand how musicians can't be any different. This is what we're doing so that we can perform for this 20 minutes. We did this first, we did this first, we did this first, because we respect all the things, right? And why is a band getting together in the first place? Well, they were together, if the band got together 6 weeks ago, what are the odds that any of them are showing symptoms that are positive, that makes them positive? It becomes a matter of who has the knowledge and what are you doing with it? How are you teaching everybody else how to do this stuff?
I think, again, why I'm trying to not be judgmental on it, even though it's something that I don't personally care for, and I'm not posting about it that I don't like it, is because, like, I don't know their situations. I don't know the conversations they've had with each other. Maybe they've all talked about it with each other and they've all asked, who have you been around? Who have you been with? Where have you been? And that's information that I don't know. So that's why I'm definitely not going to publicly blast anybody for things like that. The Walker twins last night, the Blacktones, like, I just watched an interview with them and they were talking about how, no, they're not living with each other, but they're still getting together. And what they both said was, we just want to be together. And if we both get it, we both get it. But they're also not going around anybody else. I don't even think they're going around most of their family members. They're definitely not going around friends. And that was just a choice that they made. I didn't get mad about it. I was like, cool, that's fair. I'm not.
When it boils down to it, it's always going to be a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is that you want to get as much information as you can before you make a choice. So share the information and let people do whatever they do and not be judgmental about it. If somebody gets judgmental about it, hey, you know what? That's great. I'm glad you feel that way, but this is what we did and it worked for us. Your results may vary.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah. I think
Also,
one thing.
Oh, go ahead. You go, Seth.
I think one thing, especially with like these Nectar high dives, it does majority support the venue, but also 40% goes to the artists. And one thing that you don't know what someone else's situation is, whereas like some artists might like desperately need that 40% of the earnings that night to make it to next week. And so not having that information, just I have to just stop all judgments just knowing that, because I don't know what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, and some people could just be performing out of desperate need,
or their team might need it too. You don't know who else the artist pays. That might be laid off and not have any money right now, and that might be money for basic needs like groceries or housing. Unfortunately, those things should be covered right now, but they're not. And so if you're trying to provide that for someone, that could be a huge decision for you, is how do I support the people that are closest to me too. And also, I agree with you, Michael, about trying to get the most information you can and then making the best decision you can off of that. Even what you were saying about groceries.
Yeah, I gotta go grocery shopping. I'm doing this instead of doing that.
I wanted to pick up groceries. I wanted to get groceries delivered, and there was no availability. And then I wanted to pick up groceries and like not go around the grocery store, and there was no option for that either. And I also don't want my parents to go out, who are older than me and more at risk. So I wanted to go and pick up their groceries for them. And so like, it's kind of a, dangerous decision for me to say, okay, I'm going to go in the grocery store and, because I want groceries, and I want fresh produce, and I want my family members to have that. So like, it's kind of like, I try and do the best thing. That option wasn't available. Here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try and mediate it by offering to pick up somebody else's groceries for them, so it's less people going out. But it's like, it's all, I could totally see somebody saying like, well, you shouldn't have gone out to the grocery store at all. You had rice and beans in your cabinet. You could have gone through that first. You didn't need those fresh greens. But it's also like, well, I want to be healthy too. It's really a hard decision, and I think it varies case by case and person to person, and whether it's for groceries or for the music industry.
Well, I think like what also has been said too is like this is ever changing very quickly. My opinions on the entire thing have changed. You know, in the very beginning when they first started making, you know, talking about it, and I remember making a post and some people didn't like it. And I was like, okay, until this gets bigger than the flu, I'm just going to stay, you know, I just won't shake hands with people at venues. I'll wash my hands when I leave. I'll be fine. My opinion on that has completely changed. Of course, I never thought they would take the venues away. I never thought that would be an option. A week ago, I remember my thought on it was like, even if until there's a vaccine, I'm not going to a venue. And which, you know, if that's a year and a half away, so be it. But even in the past week, I've been kind of like, well, you know what? If I'm wearing a mask and maybe if the venue requires that all people in there wear masks, I'd probably be cool with that. So even my own mind is like constantly changing on this entire thing. It's just evolving a lot. And I've heard, you know, through the grapevine that Triple Door is looking at the option of maybe putting up plexiglass in between the seats so then they can go back to having shows. Like, and I was like, maybe that's actually okay. You know, when I first thought about it, I was like, yeah, but then you have all these people still in the same room. But then once I thought about it, I'm like, it's a bigger room. Like, I don't know. Like, it's constantly new information, new changing, lots of different stuff, you know.
Having never been here before, no one knows.
Exactly.
And you know, there's a certain amount of trial and error that's gonna have to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's important within that trial and error to be open to the errors. Like you have to be open that you're gonna make a wrong decision, and look at that wrong decision. If you make that wrong decision and say, okay, I'm not gonna do that again.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said before, it's a matter of showing everyone this is what we're trying, and they're going to probably say, well, we were going to do that, and this was our experience. You're going to have to take it in and decide whether it works for you or not. One way or another, you know, it all boils down to choice. And, you know, in our particular society, the problem and the solution is choice. And what works for one may not work for the other. You know, some people can wear Converse and somebody they're dead set against it and they have to wear Nikes. And that's a stupid comparison, but you guys are smart enough to put it on anything and it still becomes exactly the same argument.
To shift a little bit, one thing that I put in the comments for the artists that are in here, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I want to make sure you know about it, is Spotify is now enabling a new feature to where you can put an app into your Spotify so they can tip to your Cash App and I think to PayPal. I don't think Venmo yet. So if that's something you haven't done yet, you might want to look into that. So when people are listening to your music through Spotify, they can tip you. But one thing I also kind of wanted to bring up with all this is that lots of artists are making lots of money on tips right now, which is great. And, you know, they are quote unquote donations, but I've also wondered how long that's going to last until the government says, whoa, like they try to dip their fingers into it, or will they try to do that? And I've thought about it as well. It's like if I help an artist do a show and they get paid through donations and then they send me money, how am I going to work on that tax wise and claiming? And there's some conversations already starting to float around about that. So just curious if anybody's thought of that at all, or, you know, experiences. And
real quick on the Spotify donation, if someone donates to you via Cash App, you get an extra $100. Just a little.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a great one. Thanks, Seth.
So I set up Chris King and the Gutterballs Spotify this week to just donate towards his Cash App, so you get that extra $100 if someone were to do it.
Seems to me that, you know, this becomes a bookkeeping question, and, you know, most people can compute their own tax layout anyway. So if you get, you know, if you get $50 in tips and say, oh, okay, well, you know, I live in King County, the tax rate is blah, 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 blah. You can set that money aside as long as you keep a record of it. What's anybody going to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about questions from the three folks who are here? Any questions for any of the panelists? It can be COVID related or just music industry related for any of us.
Well, I guess I'm not a panelist since I jumped in. I've been like struggling for the last 2 weeks, because I see other people doing, online shows and keeping it up, and it's being, the hardest thing about being where I've been has been becoming, going back to who I was. And so it's been very difficult. I don't have a lot of the technical experience to make, I can write, but I record at home. You can see I'm in my room, right? But then, when I go out, I never release anything because it doesn't sound good to me. So I have that inner fight with the critic, and I keep, going rounds with the critic. And I stayed up until like 2 a.m. last night trying to teach myself about gain staging so I can improve. But I never know. I don't know who my audience is. I don't know any of this stuff. So to watch people like Stephanie, who have already kind of established themselves, right? How am I going to, I don't know how I'm going to do that now in this environment. It's just, it's hella scary.
You're talking about the actual music production, recording, mixing process?
It's all a means to the end. You have to have as a musician, you have to have a product to show people, and you got to show them sometime. So I keep putting it off because, I don't, unlike most, I don't have that team. I don't have like bandmates. I don't have like a producer. I don't have like a songwriting partner. I don't have that trustable source. I mean, I have trustable sources, but Jesus, I got hundreds of them. Who do I trust that's actually saying, yeah, this is a good song. This sucks. Why'd you do this? Oh, it's terrible. Who do I trust? So I sit here going round and round and round the merry-go-round and round and round. How does everyone else get past that and just say, screw it, I'm going to put this out, and whoever likes it, likes it, and whoever doesn't. Fuck the...
I think you just do it. You should just do it.
Trust. People want to hear you, Michael.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself. But then I go look at the Spotify numbers, and it's really kind of
not the world isn't all on Spotify.
Oh, I know. But it's the return. You expect a certain amount of return.
Yeah.
You expect a certain amount of people to sign up for your newsletter. You expect a certain amount of plays when you do put something out. You expect nothing is more debilitating than hearing 5 people say this is a good song. You have 4,000 Facebook followers and 7 people have listened to it. You go back and look.
The algorithm's not going, then they don't.
The numbers are still the numbers.
I'll send you some resources. And
the numbers are still the numbers. So there. As an artist, it's just a matter of getting out of my head and just saying, you know what, I was I was pretty good before all that happened, and I'm still pretty good, and just leaving it right there, which is really kind of tough. So just doing it is like, yeah, I'm going to do 50 sit-ups, 50 push-ups, and go run a mile every fucking day.
One key word that you said there that jumped out at me, Michael, was when you release something, you expect the numbers to be this or be that. It's the word expect. I try to not expect anything. Like when I'm managing a project or booking, I try to go into it of like, I hope this works, but I'm not expecting like, this is going to blow up. I know it's going to blow up, blah, blah, blah. Because first off, I don't want to be let down. But number 2 is I really don't know, because this industry especially is just so ever changing and everything's so different. And like what worked once with one artist might not work the second time you do it. And it especially is not going to work with a different artist in different projects. I also feel like if you've got a song that you're really into, send it to 10 or 20 or 40 people, and on the side, and be like, hey, do you dig this? And once you get to like 5, say if you send it to 40 people, once you get to 5 or 10 or 20 people that dig it, then maybe there's your answer. Or if you send a different one to 40 people and 39 of them like it, then that's definitely your answer. But if you send it to a different one to 40 people and only 5 people dig it, that might be your answer too, that maybe it still needs some work. So like, keep sending stuff to folks until you get that overall reaction that like, this is actually dope. Because you don't want yes men. I tell this to artists as well. Like, you don't want just yes men around you. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, everything you release is not great. And if you have you know, if any artist ever hears that, like, they've got people bullshitting to them, like, they need somebody honest that says, that one little rough, or like or at least me personally didn't like it because of blah 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 blah. Like, you need honest people, and unfortunately, if that has to happen for a big portion of the stuff you send, or even all of it, at least you know, and ask them what they would like to hear different from it, or what makes them feel different about it, and that gives you something to work on to try to change it up at least.
Yeah.
I also think that it's important, I'm sure you all know this, that the amount of people that are on social media right now is off the charts. People are on it all the time, and I would definitely engage as much as you can, even if it's just once a day, on social. Use Instagram, post pictures, ask a question or whatever. Engage your audience, because people are out there, and ask people to share it out. And this is a time when everybody does need to come together and support each other, and leverage who you know. I mean, that's definitely.
I do think, Michael, there's many different ways that you can get to the point where you're like, yep, this is the song. But I think the biggest thing is, once you get to that point, for me, is it's not so, I mean, you're a great artist, Michael. I've known you for a while. I've heard not only the stuff you did with Macklemore, but I mean, I saw what you did with Grandmasters recently too. That was awesome. But how you get to that point, Mackenzie offered up a solution, Erica offered up a solution. But I think the biggest thing is, once you get to that point, accept and wholeheartedly embrace that you are at that point, so that the rollout of the song gets rolled out like you just rolled out on a red carpet, and it's not just like rolling out of an alley like a ball or something, like embracing it wholeheartedly and giving it all the love and attention it deserves. Even if you're like still like, I'm not sure if this is a song, it's like, once you make that choice to put out the song, look to your favorite artists historically, or even just in the last 10 years, go scroll their social media pages, see how they were putting out music, and try to take some inspirations from that, while flipping it in your own way to something that you think is fresh and original to you. But I think the embracing part of it is the biggest thing, because I do think songs, records, even shows are only as special as you make them.
The battle is the inner battle, and at
Absolutely.
some point, I couldn't be an artist if I didn't doubt myself, because I question a lot. I question a lot of, and this is like the come down. This is like, it's a study in psychology that I've had to work through, that most people don't realize. Every day I got to walk past two statues that less than 2% of the world's musical populations have. And I just, I was under, what the hell, how the hell did that happen? But yet, I come into my studio, and I put down beats, and yeah, but nobody's going to like this. Nobody's going to like this. And it's that person. I can't, it's like killing a cockroach. You can't hunt it down and keep it long enough to fucking kill the thing. So what you just said, though, is what I was saying earlier. Everybody's experience is different, and I try to look for the similarities and not the differences. I know that I'm not the only one who goes through this. Yeah. And every time that I see, anybody doing a live show, it's like, I keep telling myself, well, I can do that. And I'll practice guitar for 10 minutes. And it's like, okay, I'm not a great guitar player, but I can still do this, that, and just, I keep trying to tell myself every morning, do your best, leave the rest. Yeah. Because when it comes down to it, it's just that simple.
But do you have a song, so I don't know how many songs you've been making this year, but for example, since COVID started, I've been making more songs than I can count, but I definitely have one or two songs that I just keep playing over and over. And I'd like to think some artists, they make some things that, whether they care if people like them or not, it just really resonates with them. Do you have anything like that where you keep going back to it?
I have one that I keep, it stays in the back burner of my mind, and I like the hook, and I like this and that about it. I'm just trying to make the production as cool as, as good as possible.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Abbey Road. And I know that I am not George Martin. I am not Ryan Lewis. And I've already asked him to help me. I've already asked him, how much does it cost for me to do a session? Right.
Yeah.
And I got no answer.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
When I send him a song, he says, "Sounds great," and then that's all. Yeah.
So, what do you do with that? And it's like, okay, well then, everything for me is starting every day. It's starting over. It's starting over. My band, the Ghetto Monks, posted yesterday the live version of a show we did at High Dive, and it's doing Use Me, which I've done forever, right? I know I can do this stuff. I just put it out on my Wands page and stuff like that, but it's everything else that goes with it that, that leads to all the doubt. And, yeah, believe me, just this conversation, I have to go. I have to go do, I have like things that I want to do today. And I really appreciate everyone being here, because what you've done is reminded me that, just like that, the character on TV, I'm smart enough, I'm strong enough, and doggone it, people like me, but sometimes it's good to come to that conclusion yourself instead of looking for the outside validation, because if you're looking for self-validation outside, you're looking in the wrong place, So
I do think, real quick before Erica has to jet, covers right now, especially because Alaia was talking about like shorter the better.
Yeah.
A good cover, whether it's an old song or a new song, can be a great breath of fresh air for a lot of people.
Yeah. Before I bounce, I wanted to throw this out here because it was an idea that I came up with a while ago when the idea of Shana came up. It's like, go watch a few episodes of the Carol Burnett Show and see how you could best emulate that for your audience. That's what I'm going to do. It's a thought.
Yeah, pull the ear. I know that move too.
Yeah. I got to go, guys. Great
Thanks,
to see
Mike.
you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. See you later. Take
Talk
care.
soon.
Bye.
Anybody else any questions for us?
Yeah, I have a question. Do you guys think that there's in any way that artists should be planning ahead, or do you think, just like a lot of other things right now, and it's been said a lot here and everywhere, that it's just kind of a day by day thing? Because in my life, like being an independent artist, I just as much time as I spend doing creative things, however that fluctuates through different periods. I spend a lot of time also just like sending a lot of emails, like booking things for myself. But I also feel like at the time, like there's obviously not concerts that are being booked, live music is being shut down, and I don't want to, and everyone's in such a confused place right now that I don't know if like sending out emails, and I just don't know how. I feel a little bit lost on how to approach the non-creative side of being an independent artist right now, because it's hard to plan. Does that make sense, that question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Alaia, do you want to go first?
I can try. Yeah. I know that it's hard. Like I was saying earlier, we had to cancel a tour. We don't know when we're supposed to be able to go back onto it. Supposedly Tree Fort is happening in September, and we're on that bill. But I don't think anybody really knows, And we had to postpone also the vinyl release. Again, we don't know for sure if the venue's even going to be able to open at that time. That's what we're looking at. So if you can do some planning, that's great. But I think you have to stay flexible to it being an unknown. And I don't think that like anybody should fault any artist for that if you have to change your plan a couple times, because you can't know what's going on. You can try your best, but I think one thing that is in your control is what you can do right now. So I would say to kind of refocus onto, it's hard because you want to get back out there, and everybody is so eager to get back to going out and seeing each other and manifesting together in a night. That's great, but right now we can't do that, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So I would say put that energy very minimally to plans for the future and focus it now onto what you can do now. So something that we're doing is, since we couldn't have our vinyl release and we're not sure when that is, how can we creatively sell our vinyl to people and draw the attention onto that? What are some ways that we can promote that we haven't done yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think speaking anecdotally, the artist Sol that I booked for, we had a May tour. We were going to move that to the fall. And as we were rescheduling for the fall right now, we have that kind of backup tentative plan of like uncertainty, but we're just making the best that we possibly can. Some people won't reschedule with us, but most of the venues, given where Sol's at, are down to reschedule. That being said, we have a separate contingency plan of just how we're going to rock at least until the end of 2020 in this climate. And it's taken a month, 5 weeks to even get to a point where like we just got there earlier this week where we know what we're going to be doing if this proceeds for the next 6 to 9 months. But I'm in personally, I'm also in a similar boat where it's like, I think this is going to go for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I have a client on Treefort as well, and although it's around right now, I don't think something like Treefort's actually going to happen. So I'm just, all I can really do is roll with the punches, and at least for just even in the next 3 months, I was saying earlier, you know, like plan a show for next month, plan a show for June. You know, it gives you time to like not be like, oh, I have to do all these things amidst like trying to survive like financially, and it gives you time to put thought and let it grow before you launch it. I don't, does that help?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this has certainly helped, like being a part of this discussion, because I too, like for a few weeks have been thinking, well, you know, I don't want to do the live streaming thing unless I do it perfectly, because you know everyone's doing that, and there's just so much. Like, how do you even find the right, I don't know. It just, I was afraid of it just being oversaturated. So I was just focusing on like starting to write a musical or like doing something, you know, that I wouldn't normally have all the time in the world to just like be super focused and creative, like something that takes a lot of time like that. But I'm inspired now to really try and plan to do a cool live.
Are you a solo artist or are you in a band?
I am a solo artist, but I like do different things. Like I've toured with a band. I tour with a band sometimes, and I tour alone. And I've been doing like a chamber orchestra thing recently. So I play with a lot of musicians, but I'm a solo artist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I'll say that I've been thinking about is the pre-recorded video allows you to have something that you can use as a tool in booking moving forward, especially if you have the time to put some love and thought into it and make it really special. One thing that has really helped me with indie artists on the rise that don't quite have like 100 people that can come out in an out-of-town market is a live performance video can be that thing that pushes the booker over the edge of like, okay, well, the numbers are not quite there, but I just watched your live performance and like, we're going to make this work. So that's one thing I've been thinking about, the live stream.
If I can interject there real quick. Also, for the live performance thing, if you have moments in it that are like the real nailing spots, you know, tell somebody like, so some of the first shows that I ever got for Stephanie, for example, I started working for her in November. There wasn't much video out there, but there was one video of her playing at the Tractor that I started sending to all these different agents. And I even said, look, agents are busy, you know, they don't have a ton of time. And I would say, and especially at the 2-minute, 22-second mark, whatever it was, you need to check that out, because that's a part where the crowd just like roared, you know, things like that. So if there's a moment like that, or even a moment, if it's just a part where you really hit a high note that's dope, even if it's just like a video you made at home, make that knowledgeable to folks of like, here's like the real selling point. But
yeah.
Go ahead, Seth. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I think you said it perfectly, and you can even go as far if it was pre-recorded, or even if you're able to save the video from your live stream, cutting up a certain song, if you felt like, oh, I really did that song justice exactly how I wanted to. Because let's be honest, as artists, like, I can't sit down at the piano and do 5 live streams in a week and nail it exactly how I want to every time. And there's going to be some times where it hit and sometimes it didn't. And I think using those moments where you really connected, go ahead, Alia.
I kind of wanted to respond to, like, you can't hit it every time. And also a lot of what we've been talking about of, like, doubts and fears as artists, doubts in ourselves, and also numbers, and expectations, all those things. I think being, just accepting, even if you don't like it, maybe accepting those imperfections and putting out anyways can be really beneficial to you as an artist in a way that you might not know until later. And, like, for example, like Car Seat Headrest is a great example of a band that has a lot of success from releasing lo-fi versions of their songs that, like, now they re-released one of their albums under huge, they released them under huge labels, and they have a huge success. And it didn't matter that that Will Toledo released those songs earlier. It still got people to discover him, and then he redid them the way that he wanted to, with all the resources that he has now. And also, like, just speaking personally, I know that some of the smallest concerts that I've had, that may not have felt like very rock star and very, like, super powerful, there would be one person that had a big impact on, and I just wouldn't know that until later. And it's gotten me some of the best gigs, like doing a small Generator show resulted in Tres Leches opening for a sold out show at Chop Suey, opening for Taco Cat, or like playing a small house show up in Bellingham. That's how the Black Tones saw us for the first time, and they asked us to open for their sold out show at Clockout Lounge. And I've gotten all these opportunities, and from just doing these small shows. And so it takes a little bit of work, but I try not to worry so much about the immediate numbers. And I just try and think about, like, how am I representing myself as best I can? And that is not necessarily even about always the quality of the production aspect, but maybe the quality of the performance that I give, because that's something that I can control.
Yeah. I also think, piggybacking off that, there's 2 things that come to mind. You could have a bunch of people watch it, but it could be that one comment that just really resonated with you, that really meant more than anything, that kind of just validated everything it took to even get to that point to express yourself in that way. And then also, furthermore, piggybacking off what Alia's saying, is like, I've been fortunate to play shows in front of hundreds of people where we sell one merch item if we're lucky. And I've played shows in front of 20 people where 8 people bought merch. And it was kind of like we actually, like, connected with more people relatively, it feels like. And even just today when Alia talked about her experience with the Seattle World Tour, truthfully, like, that meant more than a lot of people, like, just like, oh, thanks. But, like, just knowing that someone saw, like, the duality of, like, giving back and also making money. And it's to say that I think Michael, I'm really glad Michael brought up his insecurities with where he's at, because I think every musician does that. I'm myself, like, I play in a band, and there's kind of like a security blanket in being with 5 other people. I'm gonna live and die with 5 other people. Whereas a solo artist, especially with what Mike was talking about, he's really going through it, and he doesn't have many people to, like, bounce these things off. But at a certain point, once you get to that point, there's always going to be someone who resonates with it. And even if it's just a live stream or a video, someone will likely connect with it. And if you're lucky, they'll let you know, and it'll mean more than a lot of other things that seem flashier and bigger. That's my experience.
There's performances that I'm embarrassed of that are online, and people will come up to me at, like, a show that I feel like I did great at, and they're like, hey, I saw this performance of you. Wow, I loved it, and that's why I came out to this show today. I'm like, no, you saw that? No, I want that to be taken down. But I don't say that. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy you enjoyed it. And, because, like, they enjoyed it, you know, and I want them to enjoy it. And I'm glad they enjoyed it enough to come out and support a show.
Well, and that was part of why I was telling Mike too, of like, send it to 20, 40 people, because like, when you all create, so I'm not an artist, right? So, but when you all create art and when you release it to the world, it's going to have a different meaning and a flavor and reception than how you probably created it and you know, what you maybe even meant for it to be. It's always going to be different. So I think the feedback of others is interesting there. Just try not to overthink it. But with that said, and on the balance side of it, you know, I would just say, and we talked about this earlier, just try to, and I tell artists this all the time, like and I told Alaia that when we've sat and met before, think of how you can be unique. What can you do that others haven't done, or something that you haven't done in your own project? Like, what's different? Because like and I repeat this all the time, I know, but every artist who's ever succeeded, they did it because they were different somehow than the others. Mm-hmm. All the way from the Beatles to the Stones to Katy Perry, like they were a little different than the other artist, you know, right on the other side of town. Like they did something different. So try to think how you're different. And it's also okay right now if you're confused, like everybody is. And it's okay if you also don't need to, if you don't create any art for the next week or a month or 2 months, like this is kind of a downtime, and it's okay to like focus in on yourself and to take care of yourself. Like I'm hearing a common thing of some artists are saying that they can't create right now. Like they're trying and like there's nothing there, like nothing's coming out of the pen. They're not creative. And it's because people are, for a host of reasons, but people are freaked the fuck out right now. Like some people can't make money, some people can't get on unemployment. There's a lot of different issues. So all the above is okay, you know.
Yeah, that's helpful. Sure.
Something I've had to do this year as I've tried to put myself out there more as like a singular artist creating is, even when I'm living in uncertainty, but like I love it and I want to share it, sometimes I put it up and then I just walk away from social media for the rest of the day and like just like let go of all expectations. And I try to just forget that I put it up there, but know that like at some point I sat down and tried to map out where I wanted to go as an artist. And this is all part of the path of putting myself out there and expressing myself. But even sometimes it can be so paralyzing if I have to like think about the people engaging with that at that point. And sometimes I have to just like let it breathe for 24 hours and come back and engage with the people who engaged with it like the next day. Because I even at like to this day, like I can psych myself out pretty quickly. And that's been an interesting thing to navigate this year.
And I think it's also a question of like, why are you releasing what you release as well? You know, like if you make a post on social media, Facebook or Instagram, and like Seth said, if you walk away for a lot of hours, even at that, when you come back and just happen to revisit that post, or are you scrolling through it to see how many, like 57 people liked it or loved it, and looking exactly to see what each one did? If you are, then you're doing that because you're looking for the little dopamine hit of every single time somebody liked it or loved it. But it's like, was that really the main reason why you released it, or you released it like even a post because it's something that you liked? You know what I mean? And like, so if you release something that, and if it doesn't hit your, like what Michael talked about earlier, expectations of like, well, it didn't get 200 likes or 300 or 400, you're just setting yourself up for personal failure of like, because you're setting these expectations that aren't being met, that you're creating in your own brain, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think putting stuff out there just because you like it and it brought you joy is the best thing we can do, especially in these times, because whether you're feeling creative or not, I know it's really helped me in certain times. And I'll say it again, Stephanie's evening magazine performance, like it brought me so much joy watching that. And I imagine Stephanie had a lot of fun performing that. She looked like she was having fun. So I think those are the biggest takeaways, definitely. Is I think that little dopamine rush comment you mentioned is huge. And to remember before you post, like what's the bigger picture? And if there is no bigger picture, that's fine. If it's just, I liked it, great. But you know, sometimes it can help to be like, okay, well, this is just me putting myself out there more as I look to launch something here in the next couple months or something.
Cool. Well, hey guys, I got to run. I really appreciate all of you hopping in here, especially, Alaia and Seth for being panelists on this. Again, we did it for almost 2 hours again, which is cool, but just felt like nobody really wanted to leave because it was informative. So I plan on doing this about once a month. I'm not doing any consulting right now. I'm, just trying to survive doing other stuff. And so this is kind of my way of giving back a little bit and just trying to help as many folks as possible through all this. And what I've said at the end of the last one as well, if any of the three of you start struggling with anything at all, if you need any kind of help, please reach out. Like, I'll do anything I can to try to help you all get through this.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hosting this is wonderful.
Good. I'm glad it was helpful. That was the entire intent. So
Awesome.
Great. Have a great Saturday, folks. Take care.
You too. Thank you, Mackenzie.
New York.
Yeah.